Hello? 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 Okay, great. Okay, so let's start. And I'm Juven. I'm from AliExpress. Today I'm going to talk about how we use Spring Boot in AliExpress. Okay. Yeah. So something about me. I'm currently I'm working in AliExpress, and we are doing microservices. Actually, a few months ago, I gave a talk in Berlin about in micro exchange, talking about the microservices, the practices we use in AliExpress. We have hundreds of microservice applications running, and most of them are now in Spring Boot. I also authored a book about Maven, but it's in Chinese, so never mind. And okay, yeah, I'm from China, so you know. Okay, so anyone uses AliExpress here? Okay, there's a lot. I never used it because I currently use it in China, right? Maybe I can register account here and buy something, and when I get back, the things comes here. Okay. Anyway, so we are really huge, right? So it's part of Alibaba, and Alibaba is even much bigger. Okay. Anyway, so I think last month we had 100 million customers on our website. So, and we have each Double 11 festival, we have a lot of transactions. There are some data here. Okay, so today is technical talk. I'm not going to talk too much about AliExpress. And this is a technical stack we used in 2013 and now. So we actually spend a lot of time and energy to changing stuff because Alibaba has more than 10 years history, and our code base, some are very, very old. So like 2013, we use Maven 2, we use like Java 6, Java 5, and some JBoss, all the stuff. But nowadays, most applications right now using Spring Boot. Okay, it's Spring Point 1.4 for now, I think, and we use Java 8 and Maven 3 and this kind of stuff, and Tomcat, embedded Tomcat. So we can see that like 4 years ago, applications are basically very huge, and now they are smaller. We have a few hundred applications running, and all of them are, most of them are using this technical stack. Okay, and yeah, we are starting to use Docker. Okay, as a container. Yeah, so it's actually it's quite different. Maybe in some companies and in Alibaba, we are mostly Java. 199% Java. So all is Java and all is Spring. Okay. And we use some, because it's microservices, so there's some protocols. We have our own protocol called HSF, basically similar to gRPC or Swift. It's like a binary protocol. And for asynchronous communication, we have something called MetaQ. It's similar to Kafka. Yeah, so it's a difference. This brings us a question. So if you want to use Spring Boot in our company, you need to think about how to integrate Spring Boot with our own frameworks, right? So you cannot use some simple stuff from Spring Boot like Redis Starter or like Kafka Stream Starter. You cannot use that. But you have to write some code to integrate the thing in Spring Boot and the framework we use in Alibaba, right? So that's some background. And we have multiple data centers. No data center in Spain, I think, but in America, in China, many data centers, and in America, and sometimes maybe in Europe. So this brings another question that when you use Spring Boot and you use Spring Cloud, you'll see later that when you use Spring Cloud, there's something called a Spring Cloud Configure, right? It's quite great. And it's very, very useful in our environment because we want one application running in a lot of environments: daily, staging, production, America, China, Europe. So you cannot have like 10 doc images running in 10 data centers, right? That's crazy. So you need to have one images running all data centers. This brings to you the technologies you want to use. Spring Cloud is great, but we do some modifications. You can see later. not a modification, but an extension, okay? And the last thing is that, oh yeah, it's like all the microservice world, all your systems need to have same infrastructure. So same release system, same source control systems, same Maven repositories. These are same monitoring systems. That's something about microservices, okay? It's not directly related to Spring Boot, okay? It's a simple picture, but okay. Many e-commerce companies, internet companies like this architecture. So different data centers, they communicate with microservice layer and the cache layer and data layer and the web layer, something like this. And you can communicate with, actually, so most companies, small companies, they use REST. I think Netflix is huge and also, but they use REST. But we use like binary protocol called HSF. It's like performance much well, okay. And asynchronous communication like Spring Cloud Stream, right? We have some, we did some integration with Spring Cloud Stream with our own Medicube called Stream Cloud Stream Binder. So I think Pivotal guys, they released something called a binder for Kafka because Kafka is most popular. But we have to make some binders for our Medicube, something like that. Okay, and different data centers use some data syncing stuff and maybe some routing stuff, okay. Yeah, so saying that, why we choose Spring Boot? Okay, so like 3 years ago, we have less than 10 applications. No applications running in Spring Boot, all this, some JBoss, some Tomcat. The first thing I think it's very, very critical to us is that, okay, it can start in your IDE, right? Actually, it's quite common. I think like 10 years ago, I was intern in another big company. I cannot say its name, but it's very big and it's very famous company. I spent like 1 or 2 days to start my applications. I just needed to go through very complicated process for compile it and package it and deploy into some magical machines in some magical places. It's not on my local machine, okay? So I spent my 1 or 2 days to start my application, and it's a huge application, okay? And so many logs. I don't know what's happening anyway. But nowadays, with Spring Boot, I think the most beautiful part to us is everyone can run his applications in his laptop, even it's MacBook Air, right? So it's not performing so well, but yeah, you can write. And I see some, it's like one Spring 1.4 logo, right? You can print some cool stuff, right? AliExpress or blah, blah, whatever. So his banner is quite cool. So this is when I'm like advocate inside Alibaba to advocate like the Spring Boot stuff. So, why use Spring Boot? I always show this image. You can write in your local laptop. Some people in Alibaba, they are different. They are not the same department as AliExpress. They are a department. They are still they need to deploy the applications into some testing machines and to start it. They cannot start it locally, right? That's so low efficiency nowadays. Yeah. Okay. And of course, it's cool, right? But we also, because we are, if we decide to apply one technology, it will be applied to so many applications, hundreds of applications, in the future maybe thousands of applications, right? Then we need to be very careful about choosing technologies. There are some reasons why we choose like Spring Boot, right? The first, of course, it's it improves a lot our speed of development. It can, as I said, I mentioned that we can start locally and you can test it easily and it's mainstream. And the community is quite good. You can see the Google Trends, right? It's growing so fast. I think we are so glad that we chose it like 1.5 years ago, and it's now still very mature and it's fast growing. And I think we'll soon see the Spring Boot 2.0 will be released, and we can upgrading, right? And using the open source communities, this kind of stuff. And it's cloud native, right? All the successful companies, they need to scale, not scale the machines, not only scale the machines, not only scale the databases, also needs to scale the team, right? So the only solution right now in this industry is that using microservice way to scale a team. So based on the domain model, you have like more and more applications based from the domain model and from bounded context, and you can have more and more applications. And it's but microservices requires you to be more cloud native, right? So it's like 12 factors. You have to expose your endpoints, have some health check and a state list. This kind of stuff you need to must check the page, right? To be cloud native, and Spring Boot can really help us. It's not that you have Spring Boot and you are cloud native, but once you have Spring Boot and you carefully design your applications, it can be very easy to be cloud native and to be scaled very fast. So that's why I think we choose Spring Boot. Okay, and after saying that, I have some backgrounds, right? I give some backgrounds about so what is AliExpress and what is our technologies and why we choose Spring Boot. And below I will show you I think they are very simple APIs or technologies Spring Boot give us, but they are very powerful, especially if you apply it in one application. Okay, you don't see the power, but if you apply it into 100 applications, you can see the power. Okay, this can help us reduce a lot of works for our daily programming work. Okay, the first thing is maybe you can see it. Okay, anyway, the slides will be available soon. So the first thing is BOM. I spent a lot of time working with Maven stuff. I had worked in Summertype, maintaining some like Maven Central repository, something like that. But the Maven has a dependency management scope called import, and it was rarely used. And then I found that Spring framework and this community, they use the BOM, bit of material. Basically, you can import some dependency management compositions into your project, and if you don't declare dependencies, it takes no effect, right? But if you declare some dependencies like Spring Core, Spring AOP, you declare Log4j, you declare comments logging, you declare a lot of stuff, you don't need to care about the versions, because people now, we have some office guys, they want to do DevOps and they want to learn Java programming languages, and they get familiar with grammar, syntax, this kind of stuff, and he said, okay, I think I understand some Java stuff. Okay, you have to learn 10s, 20s, and more, maybe 100 libraries, right? That's Java world. But they will have complex. You can imagine that we have 10 years history about the Java stuff, and we will have very old libraries, like common slang, a lot of common stuff, a lot of Log4j stuff, Apache stuff, and they will conflict with each other, right? So we also need to type MVN dependency tree to see the dependency we have and see why they conflict with each other, right? So, and I think Spring Boot and Spring Community, they bring us this kind of techniques. They actually say, okay, you can declare a BOM and we can help us resolve the conflicts. We're testing it for you. So that's why it's so powerful. So Spring, I think they provide some very basic stuff. Here we use like Spring Boot dependencies and Spring Cloud dependencies because they can resolve most of the conflicts for us. And we just meet people say, okay, what's your version of the Spring Boot? It's basically the version of the BOM, right? Spring Boot dependencies, 1.4, 0.2, something like that. And based on that, we have our own integrations. I think we have developed like 50 starters. Okay, some of them are very commonly used, some of them they're not so popular inside Alibaba, but basically it's 50 starters, and they will have transitive dependencies. And now you need to take care of the potential conflicts of these starters, right? So they use native sometimes, they use Log4j maybe, so take care of them. And we use this BOM, so we made something like Alibaba Spring Boot dependencies, and it's a BOM. And it has its own versions based on Spring Boot versions. This helps us a lot for us to resolve like conflicts. Okay. Yeah. I think the second thing I want to mention is the health indicator. It's really, really, really useful. So now your applications needs to be cloud native, which means you are stateless, and which means someone will bring you. So once your application is ready, it will be registered into load balance, right? Maybe something like Eureka, maybe something like F5, something like that. But before your application is getting into this load balance, you needs to be healthy, right? Yeah. So by default, Spring Boot provides a lot of health indicators like disks, like some Eureka. They also have something like health indicators, and some other part of that like histories or blah blah. But that's far away from enough for us. All our applications will use some like HSF, use some like queue, use some cache, use some like configuration servers. So there's a whole environment around all applications, right? And maybe people configured it right, maybe people configured it wrong, or they forgot to configure it. So this kind of stuff needs to be checked. The health needs to be checked. Otherwise, once you bring your applications into the load balance and the traffic's getting in, and there'll be exceptions everywhere, right? So all our starters, we will have a health indicator added into the health indicator, and it will be automatically integrated into Spring Boot, and using the /health, you can check the health status of your application, right? So this is the result. It's some JSON. You can see some stuff, equal blah blah, but these are Alibaba stuff. So when you extend a Spring Boot, you also need this kind of things. And this is some code. You can check it. So it's simple actually. You just extend the abstract health indicator, right? And you do health check. And this is a builder. You build it with up or with down, right? This is up, and if the exception is down. So here's my own code. I get some configurations, special configurations from my daemon, and do some like very basic checks to make sure that I'm in the real world and I'm in the right world. Okay. Yeah, this is critical for us. So you have a consistent way to check your health of all applications, and you will be very confident about that when you, for example, I have two machines of our service, and some days the traffic is getting. I want to scale more machines. I want to have 10 machines or 20 machines, and just to scale it, and the health checker will do the very basic health. Once the application is running, it's up, and it will bring the applications into the load balance, right? Okay, this is the health check. And this one is quite interesting. Failure analyzer. Imagine that the problem is like this. So we are a small team inside AliExpress. We need to support hundreds of developers, right? And we write many starters. We write frameworks, and so people can speed up and they can write their own code. But it's always something, okay, my application starts, but it failed. And the developer has no idea why it's failed. And okay, check the logs. Then he grabs some logs, and I get the logs, and I do some analyze. Okay, maybe some service is down, maybe your configuration is wrong, maybe you are in your home, but you've got to dial the VPN, something like that. So there are many causes, cause people to failure, right? But we want people to fail fast and fail clearly. I think this failure analysis can really help us to make people fail clearly. So we write some failure analyzer tells people that, okay, you start failed. Maybe there's port collections. I tell you, okay, your port is collection, and you have to do whatever, blah, 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 to fix this issue. And you are in the wrong environment, you have to fix this. And you forgot to configure something, you have to fix that. So this is a very user-friendly, programming, not user means programmers, right? For a very programmer-friendly way to tell people that what's going wrong. That's a failure analyzer. And there's some code. It's quite simple, right? You declare some exceptions. These, no, these are all Spring Boot features. You can Google it later anyway. But it's basically that you declare some exception. Okay, it's called my own exception. Okay, and you declare a class called failure analyzer. It extends the abstract failure analyzer and using this exception. And from this exception, you can get some context about what's happening, and you print something, tell people that okay, something going wrong. And I probably know that the reason behind that, and here's some actions you can take on that. Okay, so this is it saved me like it can really save me 1 or 2 hours every day. You know why? Because I have to support so many developers, and if I print very clearly, they don't ask me; they just fix it by themselves, right? If you tell them to find the logs. Okay, one developer can cost to 20 minutes. They grab some logs and you analyze and they tell them how to fix this. Yeah, okay. So this another techniques we think is quite awesome, right? Okay, and this is the Spring Boot provides some application event. I think there are 5 events responded to the Spring Boot lifecycle. So when it's up, when something is prepared, and when everything is ready. So here's one small example. I show you that how we use Spring Boot event. Okay, so and I told you that we have many environments. So we have like daily environments, we have like a staging environment, and we have like production environment, right? So if you can set some Spring profiles for each environment, so and the developers can use these Spring profiles, it will be very handy, right? They can code their applications, which knows what kind of environment is running, and adding some like add profile annotations to their code to run some stuff only in stage environment and only in production environment and only in daily environment, right? So one way to pass this the Spring profile is that you can when you launch applications, you can pass in some command lines, something like that, environment variables. Okay, here's another way. So, when your application is started, there's an event. It's called application starting event, right? Then I can write something, call it like event listener. Yeah, event listener, application event listener. And in this listener, I can do some cool stuff. I can write some code, detect what kind of environment I am, and then set some staging profiles. And people, this is basically this is a framework code, so people can use your framework and they know what kind of profiles they are. Okay, and they can use the profile and they code their own business logic. So and you can do a lot based on the other events, right? So you can use events to calculate how much time it takes your applications to start, right? And you can use events to do other cool things. Yeah. All right. Some code there. I don't want to explain too details. You can tell me later if you have any questions. Okay. All right. Here's property source locator. It's not Spring Boot, it's Spring Cloud, I think. But Spring Boot has some SPIs for Spring Cloud, I think. Yeah. So the basic problems we want to solve is that our applications running in many different data centers and there are different environments, and we want them to load the environment configuration on startup. Maven profile has something, or Maven has something called Maven profile, right? You can build from one source code. You can build different packages. It's Maven's way to handle different environments, right? But I think nowadays, it's outdated. We should use something called Spring Cloud Configure. So you have one applications, one binaries, or one doc images, which can be run in many environments, right? And the way to configure this binary, maybe different database URL is different, maybe the threads is different, maybe something is different. Anyway, so the right way is to that when you start up, you load your configurations, right? Okay, so Spring Cloud Configure, they have some integration with Git, right? So the Git, but I don't think because we are we potentially we scale very huge, and we require very high availability for this kind of very basic services. So we don't use Git. We have our own stuff called daemon. It's a KV store, something like that. It's like a, yeah, it's similar to what to some like other KV stores in the industry, right? So it's very stable and its performance is awesome. We just need to bring them together, right? Luckily, it's very easy. You see the left part of this diagram, you can see some code, right? This code is Spring code. You can use Spring annotation at value to inject all the configurations into your code. The right part is you need to configure your applications. So I think that Spring have a configuration called a Spring application name, right? All the Spring Boot applications needs to configure this one. And we add another dimension. We call all the applications need to configure Spring application group. Because we have so many product lines, like, okay, you guys are responsible for the transactions, you guys are responsible for the buyers, you guys are responsible for sellers, and another is responsible for the members, right? And each product, they have many applications, maybe tens of applications. But if we only have one Spring application name, it's hard to organize so many applications. So we use something called a Spring application group. Okay, so one application has a group and have a name, and we follow this convention. So okay, your application group is like com.aliexpress.archimedes, and your application name is Archimedes-dashboard, and you can use these two parts to make a convention and make a property file, come aliexpress.archimedes, and then Archimedes crawler or dashboard.properties. Put it into demo. Okay, now we have some code like this. Yeah. So, okay, I want to explain it a bit of detail. So this part is that it implements a property source locator. It's an API, I think, exposed by Spring Cloud configure. And it will run on your Spring, before your Spring Boot is running, application is running, it will run its code. And this code will based on what kind of name your application is, what kind of group your application is, and it will load your configurations from Daemon. Daemon is some of our basic services we provide. And these configurations will be returned as like composite property source. This one is property source is some like KV stuff inside Spring, right? Yeah. So we return this and we load all the configurations this application needs, and now it's in the Spring Boot application environment, and the application can use it. Okay. So this is a interesting strategy we use. So using these strategies, all our developers, their code can be, plain Spring code. And they just add a dependency called daemon starter, and it will load all his configurations from the correct daemon servers. And when the application starts, the configuration is ready. So this is, I think it's quite cool. Huh? Okay, yeah. So when you write starters, you need to think about people want to configure a starter, right? Just timeout or application name or like namespace, blah blah, many stuff. So I think we found a pattern like there's two ways to configure your starter, right? So one way is like this. It's very simple. So all Spring Boot developers, you can see that as one starter will expose its like global configurations like this. So you just declare that your class is configuration properties, and you type in some POJO, like some very plain fields, and with get and set, and with some documents, right? And it's all done. And then your starter can use this, inject these properties into the starter other classes and use this kind of things. And when users use the start, it types the prefix, string dot diamond, and all other stuff will be there. Okay, I'm assuming using IntelliJ IDEA, right? Okay, and it will be just pump up, and you can see what's the default values and that is. So this kind of is global configurations for the whole starter, right? But the other way is also very useful is that being specific configurations. For example, here, okay, here I have annotation called HSF provider. Basically, it exposes beans into as a service. It's a remote service. Now it's a very simple bean, right? Say hello, okay, and I have this annotation and tell people, okay, now it's an interface for the RPC, and people from other applications can call me, right? But here are some very specific, like service version, right? Service version. So service version by default, the whole version, all the versions in these applications will be same, like 1.0.0, 1.2.0. But I want to declare that this very specific being, his version is special, okay? So the very simple way to declare this is I just add this configuration into this annotation. And when I initialize the application, initialize my status, I can get all these annotations, which is providers, and I get the configuration of this provider and do some computations, filtering, mapping stuff. So I can handle these specific beans and set them correspondingly, right? Yeah. So this is the other way. So the previous way to configure that, okay, as long as you might use my starter and you configure it, and all the beans related to starter share the same configuration, right? But this way, if you use my starter and you don't like the default configuration for all the beans, you can do some special to very specific beans, and this happens a lot in our environment. Okay. Okay. Next one is logs. Actually, we have I told you that we have so many applications, and we want to make sure that all the applications are printing logs in a consistent way. Otherwise, it's so hard to do analyzing, and it's very hard for one person to go from one place to another place. So we have a template like this. So yeah, so people define their logback Spring XML like this way. Okay, so if you are in a development world, you just ref the console and the file, application file. If you are in production or staging, you don't need console. You use application and some special monitoring framework called AliMonitor. It will basically print something into agent, and agent will collect all the information and send to some data centers to analyze them. So now most of the users, they only need to write something like this. The magic is in include step, right? So logback supports something called include. Actually, I learned it from Spring Boot, right? Spring Boot, all the detailed configurations is now in the base XML, yeah? And if I open this base XML, it's very complex. I simplified it a lot, but still it's a bit complex. It includes some basic stuff from Spring Boot, like inheritance, right? This is the user's level and the AliExpress base level and the Spring Boot level. And here I define common stuff like what kind of login files, patterns, which to print, how to print, and how is console defined, how is AliMonitor defined, how is all the pen defined. And I only need to maintain this logback Spring XML, the base XML, and people can reuse it. Of course, they can customize. After they like inheritance from my base XML, they can also configure other stuff. But the idea is that you want to have a very consistent way for people to print logs, and it should be very easy. So this is the way we use logs. Okay. Okay, I think I'm very fast. Endpoints. Spring Boot, by default, have a lot of endpoints like beans, like IMs, I don't know, many stuff. I think like 10 10 or more endpoints can expose a lot of information of this application, right? That's very helpful. And we also have more than that. As I showed you that we have something called endpoint. It will list all the AliExpress defined endpoints. And here's some stuff called Alipointer, Diamond, Docker, Maven, HSF. Here's one stuff we build. It's very simple stuff to build. We build a Maven starter. It can tells you how many snapshots dependencies you have, how many release dependencies you have, and what kind of detailed dependencies you have. Like, okay, here, this JSON tell me that I'm using Alibaba Alimetrics starter 1.0.0, and also using logback 1.1.7. You can imagine that as long as all the applications expose these informations, I have a very whole graph about who's using what. For example, if you I need to fix some urgent issues, security stuff, and I want to know who's using, for example, struts, a specific version of struts, and I can analyze this information, right? Yeah, so, and all the users, so our developers, they only need to add one dependency. That's all. It's already. This is one example. It's for Maven, right? But if it's like a Docker, okay, you can get information about what kind of Docker images you are, right? What kind of base images you are. And if it's like HSF, and you can get information about what type of interfaces you are consuming, what interfaces you provide. These are so many informations. And all the microservice applications can expose these informations. You know, the users, our developers, they don't need to do more things. They just add dependencies. And that's all, right? It's quite awesome. Yeah, so now we have something like this. We define like an abstract endpoint, and well, endpoint defines the structure of the endpoint. The structure, we have some, because you need to have some structure, then you can grab the information and to analyze. Otherwise, it's so hard to analyze, right? So it depends on who's maintaining it, and some runtime information, some configure informations, and some metrics maybe. So, and all the other endpoints will inherit this basic abstract endpoint and provides the informations. Examples like a name, like a version, all those, blah, blah. You can see here the structure, right? Like a CM version, all those, name and runtime, and more informations. So this is one way we make all the applications share the consistent information so we can grab, right? That's so with this, I think the 12 factors has something. One factor is about this. You have to expose your informations because the whole industry is going to a serverless way, and there's no way for you to go to the machines to grab the logs, right? You have to expose the information to the others. So, and we have this kind of information exposed, and we build a system to collect all the informations from all the microservices world, and can get you this information and even more, right? I just listed some, like getting information, what kind of Git, like Docker, Spring Boot version. We want to upgrade in Spring Boot, and we want to know what kind of Spring Boot version we are using, like some 1.3, some 1.4, some 1.5 maybe, okay, and JDK versions and memory, CPU usage, and the release rates. I can explain you one scenario, right, like this. So because as long as you configure the git commit Maven plugin into your Maven POM XML, and the Maven will get properties into your package, right? And Spring Boot by default will expose the information in the info endpoint, and you can grab the information. And as long as you keep a history, you know that one application is from this Git version release to this Git version release and to another Git version release. You have a whole history, and like you can even understand that he is rollbacking, right? Because you can get information like 10 minutes ago, and after 10 minutes, it's back to the previous version, and you know it's rollbacking. So these informations are very powerful, and you can, if you have like hundreds of applications, and you know the release rates of the whole website, something like that. So you build something, we build something to grab all these informations, and we put them together. And for each applications, we will have some diagram telling the people that your application spent like 5 minutes to start up. That's too much. You might need to think about how to, split it into small services, right? And your applications has some really old memory dependencies, which might cause you some issues, right? You want to upgrade. So all these informations are very valuable, and it's application-centric, right? And you can have a comprehensive view about what's your the department, what the whole hundreds of developers are doing, using what kind of technologies you can get, and you can also expose some like metric stuff. We do a lot than CPU and load. We can collect more information like response time and query per seconds. These kind of informations. This can guide you to scale your applications. So you can have some schedulers to scale these applications because its CPU usage is like less than 10%, and now it's have 10 instances, right? Now reduce it to 5, and you can use this data to help you, to guide you to do these decisions. Yes, and all this stuff is exposed using the endpoints. It's so powerful, and I think Spring Boot provides some very basic stuff and very powerful stuff, and you can do more around your business logic. You can want to do more on that. Yes. Okay, so I finished some coding stuff, right? And here's a recap. So what I want to say today basically is that I want to tell you that we use Spring Boot, and we really care about scalability. I mean the technologies needs to be easy to use by a lot of people, not one guy, not two small guys, not a very strong team, but hundreds of developers. Some of them maybe they don't know too much about, not very experienced, and the API, the framework, the stuff you build for them must be very simple and easy to use, right? And I think Spring Boot is kind of example about it. Spring Boot the API is very simple and the usage is simple, and we need to integrate this into our Alibaba AliExpress environment, and people can use it in their daily work. Because if you don't do the integration, Spring Boot by default cannot survive in this environment, because we our own very strong technology stack, right? So there's a lot of integrations we did, and we learned many lessons from that. And here's the lessons. I think the very good parts about Spring Boot. There's a list of techniques. It's not a complete list, and I think we will find more. And we're also trying to do some Spring Cloud Stream stuff, but that's not as mature as this. So this is basically the thing I want to share, and I think I'm finishing, and we'll have some time to Q&A. Thank you. Any questions? There's a microphone there, I think. Oh, there are some questions there. Yeah, two hands, I think.
You have mentioned about exposing everything through the REST endpoints, and on the other hand, we could see in this template for logback that you are storing logs in the files. So my question is if you are also exposing logs through the REST endpoints, or what happens with them?
Excuse me, can you repeat the questions? I'm not excellent in English, you know, my native is Chinese, so.
Mine is not good also, so. My question is, what happens with logs in your application?
Oh, what kind of logs do we have in the application, right? Okay, so it depends, right? So for system stuff like CPU, memory, disk, this stuff, there are some specific agent will crawl the stuff, and basically there's no logs. But for logging, it's more like application oriented. So it's related to business logic, and it will be, you know, if something wrong, exceptions of course. But for business logic, you will want to print some very related stuff like HSF, like RPC framework, your query per second, QPS, and the response time will be printed. If you read the cache, this can be printed. If you go to the queue and the message ID, this will be printed. So these are called, we call it middleware. So all the middleware details will be printed. Other than that, it will be your application stuff like how many login, the login rates, something like that. Then there are the some posted products, and who posted this. So these are very business logic oriented. Yes. Okay.
You mentioned you're using Spring Cloud Stream, and I thought you mentioned that you guys are using a custom binder for that, or are you using one of the standard ones that comes with it?
You mean Spring Cloud?
Spring Cloud Stream.
Which version, right?
No, what binder are you using? What middleware are you using?
That's the thing, right? So we don't use any open source binders at all, I think. So we build many binders by ourselves. So actually we learned from the Kafka binder, and we built our own, like, called a Medcube binder. It's similar, and we also have some other binders, like we call it distributed scheduler. So it will, you know, sometimes schedule some events, and we make some binders like that. They are very specific to our own environment, our own middleware. It's not open source stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, thank you guys, and have a good time. Yeah.